Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. It is November 26th and still somehow not yet Thanksgiving. The Pilgrims really messed up when they scheduled Thanksgiving this year. It's later than ever. But we got a lot to talk about in this condensed week. That includes previewing the entire Turkey Day slate. The Bears at the Lions, the Giants at the Cowboys, the Dolphins at the Packers. Questions like the Lions injury situation, what we're seeing with the Bears through 2 games of Thomas Brown calling the plays. Denny, unfortunately, finding data that says Tommy DeVito is good.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that a little later. About the Packers, the Jaylen Waddle assance. We'll begin the show breaking down Monday Night Football. J.K. Dobbins' knee injury, the Ladd McConkey continuing to happen. Zay Flowers, just yet another rug pull. Guy's not even good. Never been good, unfortunately, Denny. It's a real shame. But we start where we always start and where we will also begin later. Cowboys, lots of Cowboys talk. Where Denny, it appears that Mike McCarthy is so fired. He's so beyond fired, like any normal point of firing, that he's getting a contract extension, ? Fill the people in on what's going on. The emphasis on psycho drama between Mike McCarthy and Cowboys owner Jerry Jones.
Yeah, Jerry Jones said on his Tuesday radio interview, which is always colorful and full of news. I look forward to it every week from a blurbing standpoint. He said in regard to a contract extension for Mike McCarthy, who won 1 game. No, I'm kidding. The Cowboys won 4 this year, but it feels like 1. He said this: I don't think that's crazy at all. This is a Super Bowl winning coach. Mike McCarthy has been there and done that. He has great ideas. We got a lot of football left. So we are talking about a guy, like Pat said, who is so fired that he must endure more of this torment into maybe 2025 and beyond. It actually does make sense because for Jerry's reputation as a guy who's always looking to tinker around the edges, he's actually painfully loyal, right? And he's done that with head coaches in the past. I guess I wouldn't be entirely shocked if they actually did bring this guy back.
I would. I mean, there's no offense to our current coworker Jason Garrett, but we thought he was fired about 4 successive years.
Yeah, really, true.
Before he actually was eventually let go, he came to NBC. Mike McCarthy. At 3-12, Jerry will focus. Everyone's focusing on the 4. I focus on the 12 that we won 3 years in a row. I was working on my Jerry Jones impression in real time. I've never done one before somehow.
Yeah, you brush it up maybe. I don't.
But if they actually extend Jerry Jones, I think it would be like telling like a group of like colonial. What did we call the colonial army? I already forgot. On the Revolutionary War. I don't know.
The New England Patriots.
It'd be like telling them, though, that they're a group of redcoats in like the local barn and they would go burn it down. That would be Jerry World if they found out that Mike McCarthy were extended.
I do feel like
it won't happen.
I feel like there would be an uprising. Especially maybe things would be different if they hadn't been so miserable in home games over the past 2 years. But they embarrass themselves every time they're in front of the home crowd, and I feel like there's just no chance unless Cooper Rush is able to power the Cowboys to 4 wins in their final 6 games, something along those lines. Then maybe, but really, I mean, if you're gonna do the analytics thing, you should just lose out from here.
Oh yeah, but they won't do that though. I'm haunted now. What did we call the Continental Army? Were they just colonists? I don't remember what we called them. I'm gonna be bothered by that. You're gonna be talking about you're like going on like 4 minutes on Tommy DeVito, and I'm just emptily nodding my head and staring. Like, was it Yankees? Is it
you have 6 tabs open.
Yeah.
On what they're called.
I guess maybe it was just Yankees or the colonists, whatever. The colonists burning the barn down if they extend Jerry Jones. I'm Denny Carter. The Ravens burned the building down in L.A. last night. Only late, though, and only after a few Quentin Johnston drops aided the war effort there for Baltimore and L.A. Yeah, one of the single worst quarters I've ever seen a player have.
I feel like he's back, like he's all the way back to just total head case, and I feel bad for the kid.
I do too. I mean, those drops, there are drops that was like beyond drops. This like Mike McCarthy, like where Quentin Johnston might be getting a contract extension at this point.
Yeah, right, for the Cowboys. Yeah. Well, it reminded me of a golfer who's been hot, kind of figured out his putting woes, his yips on the green, and then they return at a crucial moment in a tournament. And what the golfer does is he misses a 1.5 footer, and he starts looking around for answers. Well, what happened there? Does anyone know what happened? And that's exactly what Quentin Johnston was doing. I think Troy Aikman mentioned this. Like, he's like looking to people like, can somebody help me here? Like, what am I doing? But the yips are back.
Yeah. Quentin Johnston won the Travelers or maybe the Waste Management Open, and the first time ever. It's the weekend at a major. He's had a good like front nine, but then he triple bogeys on 10. The second he actually sees he's on the leaderboard.
Yeah,
and that's what happened to Quentin Johnston. Yeah. And the most notable fantasy development in this game, well, several, but J.K. Dobbins, whose efficiency has been on the wane for months, whose health had been as good as it had been since his rookie year, finally caught up to him. The word finally is not really a good word there, though. But a guy who has been hurt so much and had been surprisingly healthy this year is now hurt again. Knee injury. Tuesday afternoon, you may have already heard an update on it by the time you hear this podcast. We don't really know what's going on with his knee, other than he went to the locker room in the second quarter. They kind of kept up a questionable charade for a little bit. He was never seen again. He was declared out for the game. Chargers backfield was down extremely bad without him. It's not a good backfield with him. It is somehow far worse without him. If J.K. Dobbins is out this week, Denny, for week 13, is there anyone we can even really trust? Like Gus Edwards is so out of juice, it's like almost ridiculous. They do not trust Kamani Vidal at all. Hassan Haskins seems like the ultimate. Like he makes like Blake Corum at Michigan look explosive. Yes. Hassan Haskins. Anyone we can even trust in this Chargers backfield if J.K. Dobbins is indeed out against the Falcons on Sunday.
Well, I think this probably just means that the Chargers are going to go super pass heavy going forward, because they've already been pass heavy. I have some stats I was going to share during the Ladd McConkey portion of the show, but I'll just share them now. Only 6 teams have a higher pass rate over expected since week 7 than the Chargers. So we're talking about a pass first offense against the Ravens on Monday night. They dropped back on 75% of their offensive snaps. That was 12% over expected. I think we're going to see more of that if Dobbins is out, because like you said, Gus Edwards not happening. They don't really want to do the Vidal thing.
They might finally have no choice if it's a real J.K. Dobbins injury.
Right. So, if Dobbins is out, I think it's good for, it's good for everybody in the pass catchers in the offense, Disley and Palmer and Johnston and McConkey. I guess you can play Gus Edwards if you're really down pretty bad at running back, which I am in a couple leagues, and I do have Gus Bus. So I will be firing up the old bus, but I wouldn't get like too excited. I don't think Vidal is going to be startable by any means.
Do you agree with the take that it's like the kind of injury situation where the starter is out, but then the backup's role doesn't even change? Like, I feel like Gus is just going to remain like totally stuck on 10 to 12 carries. And then maybe all of Dobbins' lost work does not go directly to Kamani Vidal, but it goes to Vidal and Hassan Haskins between them. Or maybe even like end arounds. I don't know. They don't have anyone to really do end arounds with. Maybe Quentin Johnston, and he fumbled it. But I just don't like Gus. He was hurt, but he hasn't received more than 11 carries since week 2. He's received more than 11 carries one time all year. His high watermark for his past 5 appearances is 10. Yeah. It seems like they think he's like hard capped. Do you think that could even get? Maybe it just has to get up, I guess. But I feel like a situation where they're like, that's Gus's role. We're not even worried about Gus taking J.K. Dobbins' role. I'm not even really sure what the difference is between these roles. They're both inefficient early down plotters, Denny. But I don't know if there's really that much more touch potential to unlock for Gus Edwards.
Edwards is probably not going to see any kind of passing game work, and
no.
So that
2 targets all year,
right? So that limits him, big time. I think he would be the goal line guy, but then you have Haskins, and Harbaugh seems to have a thing with Haskins, so he could lose out on that too. If you're starting him, if Dobbins is out and you're starting Gus Edwards, you're hoping he finds the end zone. And
That's
if he doesn't,
the only
then
play. Yeah.
you're going to be down horrific.
Absolutely horrific. And 32 teams playing. I've done my initial sweep of the rankings and just having a hard time getting Gus Edwards even in the top 36. See, I'm going to update these several times. I do have him at RB 32 right now. But like you playing Gus Edwards, would you play Gus Edwards or Javonte Williams this week?
Oh, God. I actually would go Edwards.
Yeah, I have Gus there for now. Gus or Jeremy McNichols as we wait for news on the Commanders' backfield.
Okay, so if Brian Robinson misses, then I would go McNichols.
Gus or Tank Bigsby? It's Gus.
It's Gus. Oh, man, Bigsby. I thought Bigsby was a thing.
I know. He is, but they are the worst team in the NFL, and he's the most front-running back in the NFL.
I know.
So that's what's happened to derail our precious Tank Bigsby. Nothing can derail Ladd McConkey, Denny. Every week, seems like he's now 70, 80 yards, sometimes more, 6 to 7 catches, only 7 targets last night. Man, I was sweating that. I was like, get Ladd the ball. Get him the ball. I started him over DJ Moore, and I had to have it match up. Didn't quite get there, I'll be honest with you. But DJ, of course, goes over 100 yards. It's the league with the bonus. I'm down in utter shambles. But every single week, 5 to 6 catches, over 80 yards each of the past 2 weeks. Is Ladd McConkey pushing for wide receiver 2 value? That's probably a stretch, again, with no buys this week. But where do you see Ladd settling into the rankings right now?
So it's not a bad profile, and it's boosted big time by like the aforementioned pass heaviness of the Chargers over the past going on 2 months now. Since week 6, Ladd McConkey is only behind Josh Palmer in air yards on the team, and that's just by a little bit there. He leads the team since week 6 with a 22% target share. Not super strong, but it's something. He's been targeted on 21% of his routes on the season. So I wouldn't call him like a target commander. What would you say?
I said, get that up. Like the Chargers, because I hear the words air yards for Josh Palmer, where we know the operative phase is actually prayer yards. Absolutely nowhere on Monday night.
But had the opportunity to score 40 plus fantasy points,
if he were good,
if things had happened differently, you never know. So being targeted on 21% of the routes is not fantastic. But, I think that the fact that the Chargers are kind of abandoning the run, especially when they get down, they're the pass heaviest team in the league when they get down, is good for McConkey. Kind of makes it so that even though he's not really commanding targets, it's okay. I think he can still in PPR formats push for wide receiver 2 value. I would ask Ladd, if you're listening, Ladd, can you not find a smaller helmet?
It's the largest helmet I've ever seen in my life.
Why is it so big?
I do not know. But whatever keeps him on the field, I'll say. And his role is weird, where I don't know if these targets are all schemed or something, because over his past 5 games, he has only 4 unconverted targets. So basically every time they throw to him, he's either, I guess, wide open, or it's like a schemed look where the plan is that he's wide open. But it just seems like a guy who's finding the cushions and the soft spots in the defense. And that they really need to be they need more unconverted targets than they need to be forcing him the ball, because he's a guy who's actually making plays, actually moving the chains. And maybe they just have a very strict role for him in mind, but whatever it was, it seemed like it's time to expand it, because basically if you throw to him, he catches it. Again, I have no idea. Maybe this is all schemed and designed, but it doesn't really seem that way. Yeah. And that when you throw to the young man, he catches it and moves the chains.
One thing I've noticed, I covered the Chargers games for us last couple weeks, and then I watched last night against Baltimore. And one thing that's become clear, that this whole thing about like Trevor Lawrence has been like snake bitten by guys dropping passes, but we pointed out on the show that like a lot of these drop passes would actually be miraculous receptions. That's actually
I love
true.
Your take. I love
it's true for Herbert.
It is. It's absurd.
Herbert has 2 or 3 devastating drops by his guys every single week. Things that could make his stat line hum, man, those guys stink. I mean, Quentin Johnston, Josh Palmer, the tight ends. I mean, McConkey's different, but wow, they're terrible. Like, you get this guy a couple decent, like reliable receivers, and he's going to cook. Just get him some good receivers.
Couldn't agree more. And the way I know this take is correct, like when this happens in a Jaguars game, they zoom in on someone in the crowd and they're like angry and they're yelling at the field. They're shouting because it was not a good play. When it's the Chargers and like what happened last night at Quentin Johnston, they zoom in on a Chargers fan and it looks like their soul has just been removed from their body. Like they genuinely cannot believe what they just saw, because what they saw was a perfectly executed play that just did not happen because the guy refused to catch the ball. Whereas the Jaguars, no one in the crowd's thinking like, that's the worst drop I've ever seen, because guess what? It wasn't. No, it would have taken a miracle.
It would have been a catch so good that you would just weep right there in the stand. I've never seen anything so beautiful in my life. But for Herbert, who's by the way, you talk about a guy when you say spin the ball, he spins the ball.
Yes,
Herbert spins the ball. Like
it's Marino-esque, like you said, it's Marino.
That ball comes out of his hand at 100 miles an hour all the time, and he has touch. I mean, just an unbelievable passer. Anyway, I was blown away. I thought he played really well last night.
I saw your take on the blue sky, by the way. I noticed this and thought the same thing too, where Troy Aikman was like, well, we'll see if anyone questions Justin Herbert's arm strength now. And my true very first thought was, I've never heard anyone in my life question Justin Herbert's arm strength.
Yeah, and then he backpedaled, right?
So it was so absurd. He realized his producer probably like, Troy, like literally no one's ever said.
You can't say that, Troy.
No, you cannot. Yeah. You absolutely cannot say that, Troy.
Yeah, like no one has ever questioned his arm strength. Yeah, I feel like you want to talk about snake bitten. He's snake bitten. By the way, did you see they brought back the PSYOP fan for the Chargers?
I did. That was weird. I don't know how they found her in the crowd. That was insane.
Yeah, the PSYOP
is a total PSYOP. Yeah, Troy Aikman was told that Steph Curry cannot shoot, and he very, very much can shoot. Man, I'm losing my train of thought. I had another comparison to the Herbert and Lawrence thing we were thinking, but
I'm so sorry.
No, it wasn't you. It was Lawrence, though. This is like, please stop it. Oh, that's right. It was Anthony Richardson is getting, like all the drops that would take miracle catches for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Like, this is what's actually concerning for me about Anthony Richardson, is his horrible stat lines involve like 2 or 3 weekly miracles. Where Josh Downs dives farther than I've ever seen a receiver dive.
I know.
And catches the ball. Or like, I'm not even kidding. Jonathan Taylor 2 weeks ago did the Air Jordan logo to catch a screen. He literally jump manned to catch a screen and gain like 3 yards. And if Anthony Richardson's receivers were not being like literally heroic every week, his stat lines would be even worse.
You're right. That's actually right. He was, by the way, Richardson 14% below his expected completion rate last week. He is all the way back, folks.
I know that was bad. That was concerning. We'll talk about that on Wednesday with Kyle. We'll talk about Thursday when we come right back after this. Spend your Black Friday with the Big Ten on NBC and Peacock. Our triple header begins with a serving of men's basketball at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, followed by women's volleyball at 4:30 p.m. The day then wraps with Iowa football hosting Nebraska in prime time. Oh, we're putting the Patrick Mahomes clone in prime time on NBC.
Oof. Good. I can't wait to see baby Mahomes.
No, I mean, I actually can't either. I mean, either the Schadenfreude or like maybe he'll actually be good for once.
Against Iowa?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's true. God, he doesn't have like a 24% completion percentage. Like, Kirk Ferentz has been waiting his whole life to face this kid. Kirk, we got a fraud Mahomes coming in. Like,
We're gonna shoot for 0 for 30 from the pocket.
The kid thinks he's Mahomes. Like this kid's not completing a pass to the fourth quarter.
I'm telling you, you got to get a higher broccoli cut, and you're gonna get there, kid.
Dude, I'm looking at the fake Mahomes right now. He has, oh my God, he has 4 touchdowns in his past 7 games. This kid is down utterly horrific.
Yeah.
College stats are so hilarious because they include sacks and rushing yards. But Dylan Raiola, I can't ever pronounce his last name. Dylan Raiola has 40 carries for negative 71 yards.
Nice.
Not really doing the Mahomes thing on the ground either. Watch Dylan Raiola try to prove he's not an utter fraud on NBC this Friday evening on Thanksgiving Friday, also colloquially known, Denny, as Black Friday. You going to Best Buy, get a Blu-ray player this weekend?
Well, the thing with Black Friday is that the sales last for weeks.
Yeah, now there are months. Like Amazon begins Black Friday on July 4th now.
Yeah, they it doesn't really matter now. You don't have to get in line at 3:30 in the morning to get a big screen TV for $100. I actually did that one time. It was 2008, I think.
Well, people complain, in America, like there's no such thing as regional culture anymore. Everything's been flattened. Everything's the same. Every town's the same strip mall. Like we're losing culture. And yeah, I haven't had to stab anyone for a $4.99 DVD, Denny, since 2004.
I mean, that's
Friday.
It's sad.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off was $4.99, and some other guy was trying to get the last one. I had to stab him.
You had no choice.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at my own joke again. But he lived. He was fine. I went to jail for 2 years. But, he got the DVD though. So.
I'm glad everybody. I'm glad it worked out for everybody. DVDs used to be. The Zoomers literally don't know. They used to be huge on Black Friday. Like you could go there and be like, I'm going to get 15 DVDs that I'll literally never watch, but I bought them for $4.
Yeah, that Denzel clip where it's like I'm leaving with something. That crazy Denzel clip. That was me on Black Friday, and the something was 20 DVDs.
Right.
No matter what.
Mine was National Lampoon's Christmas Part 2.
Yes. I'm leaving with something. Man, we're going to miss physical culture. So like people will say it's trash, but just like having no physical movies, physical music. A lot of people don't even have physical books anymore. Like maybe it's dumb to surround yourself with objects. You got to surround yourself with something. Like what's even in your room anymore? If you don't have this stuff. It's
a good question. I'm glad that you are waging this war because I'm too tired.
I will continue to wage this war until the day I die, Denny. The Detroit Lions will continue to wage war on the Chicago Bears because this seems like a nightmare matchup for our guy Caleb Williams, Denny. Although Caleb coming off one of his best starts of the season, the Thomas Brown changes appear very real for the Bears, or they're at least more competitive. They're not a laughing stock on offense. They almost got a really big win over the Minnesota Vikings. But this being the Bears, they screwed it up. They lost in overtime. Now it's the short week. They're in Detroit. The Lions are 10.5-point favorites, which I know the Lions are 10-1. I know it's the Bears, but this strikes me as very aspirational line, Denny. Maybe, I don't know if you agree or not. 10.5-point favorites. We hope it's a good game because usually, we're just praying the Lions don't get destroyed on Thanksgiving. So it's kind of a nice change of pace to just pray the Lions don't destroy who they're playing.
Yeah.
But so for the Bears not to get destroyed, they're going to need more progress on offense, Denny. 2 games into the Thomas Brown era, what are we seeing? What is he doing differently than Shane Waldron?
The early game on Thanksgiving is always so sleepy, isn't it?
It is. It's very, 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 very sleepy.
Yeah, like the fans are not quite ready. Like the players are clearly not ready. It's a sleepy game.
Like Tom Brady will be like Kevin Burkhardt will be. No, actually, this would be more Romo style to fall asleep. Romo, Tony, hey buddy, where'd you go last night?
Yeah, he was partying hard. So the stuff, the play action, the motion, 3 receiver sets, that's all stayed the same since Thomas Brown took over the Bears offense. What's changed is DJ Moore's usage primarily, and Caleb Williams getting the ball out a little more quickly. And that's reflected in the following stat from week 1 to 10. Caleb averaged 8.5 air yards per attempt. That's dropped down to 7 over the past 2 games. And a lot of that has been checkdowns to DJ Moore, who I wrote up in regression files. If folks would like to check that out on rotoworld.com. Here's what I have. Over Chicago's past 2 games, DJ Moore leads the team with 14 targets with an average depth of target south of 2. And just for comparison, Moore had an ADOT of nearly 10 before Thomas Brown took over. So he's being peppered just beyond the line of scrimmage, sometimes behind the line of scrimmage. And I guess that's fine. I mean, I'm actually kind of bullish on him from a PPR standpoint because he is good after the catch traditionally, and they're just getting the ball into their best players' hands. I think that's commendable. I think that can work.
Well, it's commendable. The Bears had to do something, but I hate that the solution was, we got to get more boring. Like we absolutely.
Yeah, they needed to because Caleb does not hit the difficult throws. Like he doesn't hit the downfield stuff.
No, he has not. The Lions allow the 5th most wide receiver fantasy points, Denny. And
yeah.
Again, as we talk about every week, a big part of that is you're always throwing against them, because you're always trailing against the Lions. So of course the Lions allow a lot of wide receiver fantasy points, but I think their secondary is very banged up. I think they're really low on bodies at corner. And I guess I will say the bookmakers always know what they're doing. I think the Lions will probably eventually cover, but I think it's been one of those games that's feels a lot closer in the final score. One of my least favorite cliches, actually. But I just think the Bears will actually be able to generate a little offense here. And too, the short week is not really doing the Lions any favors. And I just wouldn't be surprised if the Bears offense is watchable in this game. Very, 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 very famous last words.
Yeah. We also saw the Bears drop back on 73% of their plays last week against Minnesota. I wouldn't be surprised if it's north of 70% again here.
Yeah.
And, so at worst, while Caleb Williams is not a one quarterback league starter, at the very worst, I think you're going to get a lot of volume for DJ Moore, for Rome Odunze, and for Keenan Allen, who came to life last week.
You just hinted at another point, by the way, where it's never been more over for DeAndre Swift, has it? He's outside the top 24. Roshan barely got the ball last week, but it was apparently he was the goal line package though. So they're doing they're letting DeAndre keep most of the work except for any of the work that matters in fantasy.
Yeah, right. He gets the disgusting between the 20 stuff, and who cares, honestly.
Rome Odunze, final word on that. Rome Odunze or Keenan Allen in fantasy this week for one.
It depends.
15 targets for Keenan Allen against the Vikings.
Do you want fantasy points? Then you play Keenan Allen. Do you want upside? Then you play Keenan Allen. No, it's I'm kidding. No, Odunze is the upside play. So from week 9 to 12, Odunze has the 5th most air yards in the entire NFL. He has 10 targets in back-to-back weeks. Of course, it means nothing because Caleb Williams, once again, cannot hit a downfield pass to save his life. But, in formats where you're starting multiple flexes, you have Odunze. I think it'll be pass heavy. I honestly would not be surprised if he gets to double-digit targets again against a pretty, not a bad Detroit secondary, but an exploitable one. I think you can play him. I think he's in play. I would rather play Keenan Allen.
Rome Odunze, or I had one and I lost it somehow. Tank Dell.
Odunze.
Yeah, what's going on with Tank, man?
I think it's just completely over. Yeah,
he's having his Tony Pollard season where he suffers a horrifying leg break, and then what a surprise, he's not back to normal still 12 months later, and we just really hope the Tank can resume his career momentum next year.
Yeah,
because it's just a lost year for Tank Dell. Rome Odunze or the dreaded Marquez Valdez-Scantling. You thought he was gone, but he's back.
So Olave's still out. They're playing the Rams. The Rams have just a horrific secondary.
Tipton season has never been more over.
Tipton? Come on. I can't believe I actually play that guy in DFS. I've never been more embarrassed in a room sitting by myself. I saw that obviously Mason Tipton had 0 points that day.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Didn't even see a target. So wait, MVS or Odunze? Odunze.
Yeah, Odunze over MVS. So I guess that's probably enough Bears talk. Denny, is there enough targets for Jameson Williams? Since he's been back from suspension, it was 5, then it was 6, then it was 7. But we're not seeing that's still role player usage. But I mean, 7 is not really role player usage. 6, you're kind of on the borderline, but it doesn't mean 8 to 10 targets is in his range of outcomes. Is 7 targets enough to kind of get Jameson Williams in the top 24? Or is he still just the classic boom bust wide receiver 3? Kind of like Will Fuller of yore, maybe.
Yeah. It's the first time that phrase has ever been uttered. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I mean, this Lions offense just completely takes the air out of the ball when they have a lead. Talking about a 44% pass rate when leading. Their expected dropback rate on the season is 58%, which is not too bad. Their actual dropback rate is 50%. Yes, which is more, which is not as good. So, you're just hoping that those 6 targets turn it. He hits one big one like he did against Jacksonville. So you know what you're getting. But the whole idea, the premise coming into the season that Jameson Williams would consistently see short area and intermediate targets that has not come to fruition. I think mostly because of the nature of the Detroit offense.
But we got to keep an eye on the Lions backfield situation. David Montgomery, they're not really practicing this week. He doesn't seem to be practicing at all. He did say the other day he will be ready. That was Sunday after the game where he departed with the shoulder injury. It seemed more precautionary than anything. But with the short week, the spread being so high, the Lions starting to look ahead to the playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised even if David Montgomery plays, which I think he will. His touches just might be a little more limited. And I'm going to have him in the top 24, probably even the top 20. But that I'm setting expectations lower for David Montgomery, even though they're such big favorites. Seems like a week like Sion Vaki season or Craig Reynolds season, where they'll try to keep David Montgomery off his feet, unless it's like an unexpectedly close game or something like that. But I think he'll play, but that he'll be a little less involved than usual. What do you think?
I don't know. The Bears, the Bears defensive line can be pushed around. They're allowing the 4th highest rush yards before contact on the season. I feel like the Lions can just run it all day. If you have Montgomery in a 12-team league, I feel like you have to start him.
Yeah, no, you do. I actually agree with that.
Okay.
You do have to start. I just think it's never really a ceiling week for David Montgomery.
No, I mean for either of these guys, for Gibbs either, really.
Yeah, I think Gibbs it is a ceiling week because I just think I just can't quite get a grip on how they're going to use David Montgomery. They for the first time ever, the Lions have more to play for than Thanksgiving Day, and I could just see them not wanting to risk further injury to this shoulder.
Sure. I will say I have thought that in the past about running backs on Thanksgiving, and that has come back to bite me. So, but yeah, we're in agreement. Don't get cute and be like, well.
You have to play him.
He might get benched in the 4th quarter. Just play Montgomery.
Because the alternatives still are not that great. The RB 24 to 30 range is just as bad as it's ever been.
You're telling me.
Chuba Hubbard, Swift, Jaylen Warren, Travis Etienne, Rashad White, Nick Chubb, the Chiefs running backs, Gus Edwards. So you cannot, even if you have this the suspicious feeling like me, you cannot get cute. You absolutely do have to play David Montgomery. The Giants have gotten cute and played the literal living meme at quarterback, Tommy DeVito. You and Kyle were saying it's never been more over for the Giants supporting cast. That was very, very true in the first half against the Bucs. 23-0, eventually 30-0. I'm compiling Tommy, as he's being called. Then came alive after that. Found Malik Nabers for 6 second-half receptions. But the vibes were very bad post-game. Malik Nabers was complaining. You found some rays of light in the data. I will say since the show began, I was sent a tweet by Rivers McCown. Tommy DeVito says his forearm and, quote, whole body are sore. He said the plan is to play. Hope he feels better when he wakes up tomorrow. Didn't really throw today. Will tomorrow. Said he's, quote, not sure he can throw with full velocity. So before we get into the Tommy DeVito cope, we will say we don't even know it will be Tommy DeVito. It could be Andrew Luck against the Cowboys. So give us the Tommy DeVito cope and maybe speak on the differences for the Giants pass catchers if it's Drew Lock.
Yeah, he did not get the memo that his only job was to feed Malik Nabers. He didn't target him once in the first half.
Malik wrote a new memo at halftime.
Nabers, the enemy has never spoken kindly to anyone more than they are to Malik Nabers right now. But yeah, I have some I didn't mean to find cope about DeVito, but I did, right? So sometimes that happens, and I'll admit to it. I thought he was the worst quarterback I've ever seen, both in college and in the pros. But against whoever they played last week,
the Bucs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, he wasn't horrible. 3.5% over expected completion rate. That was middle of the road in Week 12.
I will say, not to cut you off, but to cut you off. He attempted 5 first half passes. Almost all of his production came down either 23-0 or 30-0. But yeah, he did produce then after that.
He was 18th out of 27 quarterbacks in dropback success rate on the week. That was better than guys such as Kyler Murray and CJ Stroud and Drake May.
Never good. Never good. Might be good.
DeVito was sacked on 23% of his pressures. That's way down from the 40% we saw in 2023. And he completed 15 of 17 attempts within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, 11% over his expected completion rate in that range. That could be good. We can work with that. If you're Nabers, this can work.
That really was more in line with what I expected, and what I think people didn't quite realize we saw last year is that when he wasn't getting obliterated for a sack, he was perfectly fine, like a mid-range compiler for fantasy purposes. Like, you weren't starting him, but he wasn't one of these backups where he starts and he completes 9 passes. Like, he was at least like keeping people alive in PPR. I am just a little. He was so bad in the first half. Like, he was genuinely Peterman in the first half.
Yeah,
like getting broken apart for sacks. 3 completions in 2 quarters of play. It did seem like once they played faster, looser in the second half, he actually got in rhythm. He didn't take nearly as many sacks in the second half, even though it was the most obvious passing situations imaginable. They're down 30-0, and Tyrone Tracy had lost a fumble, so the Bucs knew it was the pass or bust. And it seemed like with the game moving faster, he almost performed better. But yeah, we'll see. And saying all your cope that you just had, would you still rather have Drew Lock starting on Thanksgiving Day, which apparently seems like a real possibility?
I don't think it matters too much, but no, I mean the fact that DeVito was pretty good in those short range targets. I think I'd rather have DeVito.
Drew Lock, don't do short range. I ain't doing that. I've never once looked there. I ain't reading that. I've never tried that. It makes me scared. It makes me frankly sickened. I'm not doing that.
You can tell which quarterbacks grew up never throwing a short pass.
Drew Lock never threw a pass shorter than 20 yards until his junior year at Missouri.
Yeah. like, I mean, and a lot of these guys grew up with like enormous arms, like no one has ever seen.
Drew Lock legitimately has one of the biggest arms in the NFL.
And, and that's cool, but their whole football existence was, I'm going to throw as far as I can all the time. And then they get to the NFL and they can't operate because that's not how it works.
They can't operate. Drew Lock, former Mizzou great, maybe starting on Thanksgiving. Chase Daniel one time started for the Bears on Thanksgiving against the Lions.
Remember that.
Horrifying. I think it was fairly recently,
yeah,
like 2 or 3 years ago. It was
a waking nightmare.
Yeah. Can you imagine a non-waking nightmare Lions Thanksgiving game? How insane that would be.
Yeah. There was one I was remembering the other day. The Patriots were dressed in their throwbacks.
They're colonists. They're continental uniforms.
Yeah, and they were up like 45-0 in the third quarter or something. And I just remember being like, "This doesn't seem right. Like this seems like unfair to like the city of Detroit to do this to them." I mean, Brady was like not even playing well, and they were just dismantling the Lions.
No, there was a lot of like city of Detroit soul searching on Thanksgiving. That's honestly been kind of like the standard feature of this game in the 21st century, especially. So we'll see.
And now they're trying to end the Bears organization franchise this week.
And they will succeed. We're looking real quick. I don't know why I'm doing this.
And there's so many Thanksgivings where the Lions Stadium is like almost empty. Like you could like hear the players talking on the field.
Well, it's like comatose in the first half, and then it's empty in the second half.
Yeah,
the Lions have lost on Thanksgiving, Denny. I'm checking as recently as last year. They lost to the Packers on Thanksgiving. Lost to the Bills 2 years ago. They lost to the Bears in 2021. That must have been the Chase Daniel game. Annihilated by the Texans in 2020. Lost the Bears in 2019. Lost the Bears in 2018. Dude, the Bears have a Thanksgiving winning streak. This is bad. They haven't won on Thanksgiving since 2016. They beat the Vikings.
Good grief, really?
Yeah, I think that was the Sam Bradford year for the Vikings. So we're not even talking about the Lions, though. We're still talking about the Giants and the Cowboys. Tyrone Tracy, back-breaking fumbles in back-to-back games. Book-ended the bye week with back-breaking fumbles. Never what you like to see. My theory remains the Giants season is truly never been more over. I don't think they can really bench him. Like they're in evaluation mode. They're not like in a situation where they can like teach him a lesson and like play Devin Singletary, or is that cope as Tyrone Tracy a shaky flex with all 32 teams playing, or do we still feel pretty good despite the miscues?
I feel really good about him outside the fumbling, like I don't know, Brian Dable is going to do the hard-o thing and be like, oh, this young man's got to learn. I'm going to punish him by benching him and having my veteran punch it into the end zone. But like last week, 9 carries for Tracy, only 2 for Devin Singletary. Tracy was again pretty efficient, 4.7 yards per carry, over 2.5 yards after contact per carry. Like, that's good stuff. So I feel against the league's most prominent run funnel defense in Dallas, I think if he doesn't put the ball on the ground, we're talking about possibly 20 touches here.
So are you saying most people are not going to be in a position to bench Tyrone Tracy anyways? Are you comfortable calling Tyrone Tracy a must start for Thanksgiving?
I think at least a guy you put in your flex over whatever other option you have, a wide receiver 3 or whatever. Yeah.
So we talk about the junk volume we're hoping to get from Tommy DeVito. We have been getting junk volume from Cooper Rush after a really, really concerning first start. We've seen more like the Cooper Rush QB2 compiler we were, quote, used to seeing the past few times Dak Prescott has been injured. Do we think this is enough to sustain CeeDee Lamb as a wide receiver 1? Can it make anyone else relevant? It seems like Jake Ferguson is out again with concussion. It seems like Brandon Cooks is finally back after a really lengthy layoff. CeeDee Lamb, top 10, 12. Anyone else relevant, Denny?
No, I don't think so. I think Cooper Rush understands the assignment, which is just to never look away from CeeDee Lamb. Lamb has been targeted on 27% of his routes over the past 2 weeks at a nice little scammy 5.7 ADOT. So we can work with that. We can cook with that as far as PPR goes with Lamb. But I mean, Schoonmaker, whatever his name is.
Literally no idea.
No. Anytime you say it, you have 20 people saying that's not the way you say it.
Anytime you say it, you may have never felt dumber in your life.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to talk with Mr. and Mrs. Schoonmaker to know how it is. But anyway, he's definitely streamable if Ferguson remains out.
It's Schoonmaker, son. The C and the H are both silent. It's Schoonmaker.
Oh, wow, Dwight Schrute.
Yeah, Luke, your dad's from Ireland? No, I've never heard him with that accent ever in my life. I have no idea where this is coming from. I'm very sorry about that. When the Cowboys 2-game Thanksgiving winning streak, and they did lose. Do you remember 2021? The Cowboys lost to Derek Carr on Thanksgiving Day.
Oof.
Rough Thanksgiving in the Metroplex there.
I mean, they're going to win this game. So,
are they?
Yeah, they're going to easily win. I mean,
easily.
Yeah, no, I mean it's going to be like Cowboys laughing on the sidelines.
I don't know about that. Drew Lock, he came to the NFL to have 2 good ever career games. One of them was against not the Seahawks. Who did the Seahawks beat on Monday Night Football last year? Whatever that game was. And the second one would be beating the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day in Dallas.
I don't know, man.
They lost to the Washington football team 41-16 Thanksgiving 2020. Somehow I don't know. I remember what was going on. There was a lot going on that year.
Was Heineke the quarterback?
I have genuinely no idea what happened in this game, but yeah, it was 41-16. The football team.
We are remembering some Thanksgivings.
We are. By the way, it's a Dowdle season. Good enough. We get concerned about the Dowdle setups, but yeah, they're 4-point home favorites against one of the worst teams in the league. Dowdle season question.
Dowdle season is in full effect. I talked about it on my Friday YouTube stream. He had a great matchup. He has another great matchup. The team is done playing this Zeke game. Dowdle had 19 of the 22 running back carries in week 12 against Washington. He ran this kind of stinks, but he ran a route on 14 of 34 dropbacks. He saw 3 targets. They will not give this guy a full complement of routes, and it's just driving me nuts. I mean, of course, you're not going to get, a 90% route rate for a running back, but, bump it up, Mike, if you're listening, bump it up to like 60%. We can work with that. But yeah, Dowdle should be in lineups, I think.
Denny, did I actually sound Irish when I did my impression of Luke Schoonmaker's father?
No. I think you sounded sufficiently German.
No, I wasn't German.
No, you weren't going for German?
Somewhere from the British Isles. No. I was doing like a bushy beard, Irish English.
Oh, I thought you were doing German.
No, you need to roll the tape. No, you don't know
I thought you were trying to be a German guy who makes shoons.
No. Anyways, it's a good time for a break. We'll be right back after this. It's a second helping of Sunday Night Football this week. Finish your Thanksgiving holiday by watching the Dolphins take on Jordan Love and the Packers at Lambeau Field at 8 p.m. Eastern. Then wrap up your weekend with the 49ers traveling to Buffalo to face Josh Allen and the Bills. Both matchups can only be seen on NBC and Peacock and NBC Universo. Man, I didn't realize they got the 49ers going to Buffalo and Thanksgiving. Kyle Shanahan shouldn't even get on the plane, man.
It is over.
Don't even get on the plane.
No.
Give me a break. I know this game's on NBC. I'm gonna watch it, but give me a break.
Of course. I'm gonna watch every minute of it.
It's more over than Tua and the actual frozen tundra in Kansas City last year.
It's whatever the 49ers think is gonna happen, not gonna happen.
Not going to happen. Tua trying to beat the can never win if it's under 65 degrees allegations on Thanksgiving night. Denny, again, here on NBC. 46.5 game total. Packers, quote, only 3.5 point favorites. I'll begin with Green Bay. You remember when this team scored fantasy points, Denny? The Packers, other than Josh Jacobs, I guess you should say. Do you remember that? And what might they do against the Miami Dolphins on Thanksgiving night?
I'm actually not old enough to remember when the Jordan Love Packers scored fantasy points, but I have nothing.
Back-to-back wins where he's completed 13 passes.
Right. I mean, and you saw, I think in the third quarter last week, Love attempted 3 straight passes of over 30 yards, and you don't see that. That is very, very. You've mentioned before how old school Jordan Love is. That is crazy. Right. And so but that's the quarterback you're getting. You're getting a guy who, when things go right, he's going to hit Christian Watson in the hands for a 49-yard touchdown. Of course, Christian Watson, carrying on the grand tradition of MVS, doesn't hold on to it. No. And so it doesn't work out. So you get burned. But that's the profile, and it's not going to get any better this week against the Dolphins. Dolphins are a massive run funnel over the past 6 weeks. The Packers 48% drop back rate over the past 5 games. None of that is with Malik Willis, by the way. A lot of the data was being screwed up by the Malik Willis games early in the season. I threw that out. 48% drop back rate over the past 5 games. That's 10% below expected. 44% pass rate in neutral situations. Neutral, not leading, neutral. So they are running it. There was a Packers beat writer who did a mailbag for The Athletic today.
Matt Schneidman, I'm assuming.
Yeah. And he answered a question, are the Packers a run-first team? And his answer was, it depends. And I would push back gently on that and say it does not depend. I think that this team just wants to be massively run-heavy. And, so it's going to be tough for the pass catchers to get there.
Be tough for the pass catchers to get there. I was hoping you were going to talk another second because I was going to look up the weather in Green Bay because trying to determine before we talk about the Dolphins, absolute over level.
It is good for Josh Jacobs. I mean, Jacobs, of course, 3 touchdowns last week. He's going to see a lot of volume.
You know what the friggin' high is in Green? This is the high on Thanksgiving Day, 33 degrees. I mean, it looks like it's 25 a game.
Oh man, the schedule maker's just messing with the Dolphins.
I know. I think it's seriously. I think it looks like it's 25 at kickoff.
Yeah, I mean, the schedule maker told the Dolphins to cry and cope.
Is there even any point?
Sent them to Green Bay on Thanksgiving. Sorry.
Is there even any point in talking about the Dolphins? So we're gonna
not really, not really. Honestly,
we'll talk about them in 1 second. Still, we just laid out that the Packers are not going to pass. But Romeo Doubs is concussed. That does condense the targets tree for Green Bay.
Yeah.
So fantasy managers, rankers, citizens at large cannot give up the idea of Jayden Reed is a top 18 receiver, even though he's never even come close to being that. Is it finally Jayden Reed season? Romeo Doubs out, or does it just not matter?
It matters a little bit. Romeo Doubs was leading all Packers pass catchers and targets when he left the game last week. But, Jayden Reed is not operating in that role anyway. This just means Dontavian Wicks is going to see the field more. And Wicks is a target commander. It doesn't work out. We're all embarrassed afterward. But, Wicks does command targets. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Reed is like a flex if you have multiple flexes. But other than that, you should not really like force the issue and be like, I got to get baby Debo in there. Because let me tell you something about baby Debo. He does even less than actual Debo.
I was going to say he's doing the actual Debo thing this year where he's not producing at all.
Right. Father Debo is also stinking.
Dude, Father Debo is like, just thank God it's Thanksgiving. Relax, have myself a good meal or three. And like, we got to go to friggin' Buffalo. It's never been more over for me.
The Niners just are in hell. Oh my
God. They are spiraling like so hard. Like I actually kind of feel bad because they have so many good players. It's gonna be kind of sad without them in the playoffs. But did the 49ers even win another game?
Yeah, they'll accidentally win a game or two.
No, they're gonna be in a situation where week 18 they'll be a control their destiny, quote unquote, team. And something unspeakable is going to happen. It's just that kind of year for the 49ers. It's kind of been that kind of year for the Dolphins, Denny, but they have stabilized. I believe they're at 5-6.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds right. We got our long-awaited Jaylen Waddle breakout on Sunday. But does this really even change the way we approach him? I was still like struggling to get him anywhere near the top 30. Maybe I'm like underreacting, but we've seen the same stat line for so long. Are we changing the way we rank and start Jaylen Waddle after finally having a big game?
Yeah, I mean, the usage changed a little bit here. He's been used in the slot on the season at a 25% rate, right? Last week he was used in the slot at 40% rate. The week before that was 38%. It seems like they're making a concerted effort to move him around a little bit rather than just have Jaylen Waddle on the outside for most of the game. His route participation has also increased slightly over the past couple weeks. 8 catches on 9 targets. That's pretty dang efficient. So I don't really know if we're going to get that going forward. And I would still say that Jonnu Smith makes it impossible for both Waddle and Tyreek Hill to get there on a given week because look. Tua, whatever they're doing, it's different than usual. Tua over the past 4 games, 35th out of 35 qualifying quarterbacks in air yards per attempt. So we're talking about check down city. That's awesome for Achane. It's great for Jonnu Smith. Not good for anybody else.
You mean Tyreek? Are we keeping him in the top 20? I think we probably will out of muscle memory, and he's so overdue for ceiling in theory, but I mean, these are the yardage totals: 48, 61, 16, 80, 72, 8. Hasn't been over. He's been over 70 yards one time since the opener. Is this guy even seriously a wide receiver 2 anymore?
I don't think so. I kind of pulled the plug on Tyreek a while ago because it's just clear like this is not the same Miami offense that produced like unseemly yardage and touchdown totals for Tyreek over the past 2 years. He has the wrist issue. I feel like things have shifted in a way where we have to acknowledge that. And yeah, I mean, there's still production to be had in this Dolphins offense, but it's not coming from the receivers typically, and so instead of must starts for the receivers, you're talking about Jonnu Smith and Achane are the must starts.
Yeah, Tyreek is to the point in the season where he's, quote, laughing, thinking it's funny, memes that are showing Tua only looking at Devin Achane and Jonnu Smith and not Jaylen Waddle and Tyreek. And he thought it was funny, is what he insisted.
No, it's not. I don't appreciate it. 5.3 air yards per attempt for Tua is just so low. I mean, just to give folks some context, like Baker Mayfield, who's a checkdown artist, is at 6 air yards per attempt. On the other side of the spectrum, you have Jordan Love at almost 11 air yards per attempt.
At some point, that's going to produce fantasy points, right? Just like maybe on Thursday night on NBC. Yeah. Yeah. No,
I mean, yes, eventually, like when it hits, it's going to hit like an amazing way. Like he's going to have like 7 complete. He's going to have like 12 completions for like 280 yards and 3 touchdowns.
That's like a Madden or an NCAA football, college football 25 stat line. So Denny, really good stuff breaking down the entire Thanksgiving slate. We're going to break down the rest of the Week 13 slate with Kyle Dvorak. I was going to say Thursday, but no, it's Wednesday. We're going to have it out for you Wednesday evening so you can preview the whole slate because you got to have your lineup set Thursday morning this week. Three teams playing Thanksgiving Day. We're getting everything else out early too. My rankings are coming out early Wednesday evening. Denny, when are the regression files already out?
Yeah, they'll publish this morning, and I'll have the funnel defense report ready for Friday morning.
So there you go. We're going to get you as prepared as we can for the holiday week. Again, that includes with Kyle joining us on Wednesday. So for Denny, I am Pat. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back in 24 hours time.